Let me ask you something. What if the parts of yourself you're most afraid of? Your anger, your deepest ambitions, your darkness? What if that's not your weakness, but actually the source of your greatest strength? We're going to dig into that exact idea today with a really powerful story called The Parable of the Mirror and the Midnight Well. So, picture this. Our story kicks off with this mysterious character, a jester, standing by a well right at high noon. And he gives this bizarre command. He tells everyone there to stop staring at the sun, the most obvious source of light, and instead to look down into the pitch-black water of the well. And that one strange instruction, well, it sets the stage for everything. And that leads us to the first part of our tale, A Fool's Golden Knife. This is where we meet the main character, a man who takes the idea of being good to a really dangerous and, frankly, self-destructive place.
Now, what's so fascinating here is why he does it. This guy wasn't just a good person. He was completely obsessed with his own light, his own virtue. He saw all the dark parts of himself, his shadow, as just dirt, something to be cut away. So he does this insane thing. He takes a golden knife and literally severs his own shadow, thinking he'll become perfectly pure, perfectly radiant.
But what happened? It's an absolute disaster, and it happens instantly. Instead of becoming some shining star, he just becomes nothing. A ghost. By getting rid of his shadow, he loses his weight, his substance, his actual connection to the ground beneath his feet. He's all light now, sure, but that light has zero power. It has no presence.
And this is the jester's first big piece of wisdom. Our shadow, that darkness we try to hide, it isn't just a flaw to be fixed, it's our anchor. It's what gives us our footing, our depth, what makes us real in a real world. Cutting it off is like cutting the rope that tethers you to reality itself. So what happens when you're untethered from reality? Well, you start wandering around like a ghost, and that shadow you threw away, it doesn't just disappear. Oh no, it starts to grow into something else in your absence.
The parable has a term for him, a last man. It means he's become see-through, totally harmless, and completely ineffective. He's like a tiny little candle flame in the middle of a hurricane. It's a nice little light, I guess, but it's totally useless because it doesn't have the raw, dark fuel you need to start a real fire, a conflagration.
So you've got this wild contrast going on. On one side, you have the man himself. His will is as fragile as glass. He has absolutely no ambition. He's just this harmless ghost. But on the other side, that shadow he cast away is anything but gone. It's festering in the dark, it's bloating and screaming from deep within his unconscious mind, and it's growing into this monstrous, powerful force that's ready to take over.
And this leads to the jester's absolute best metaphor in the whole story. A king who ignores his dungeons is eventually usurped by them. Think about that. When you try to ignore the monstrous, ugly parts of yourself, you don't actually get rid of them. You just give them the time and space they need in the dark to get stronger, until one day they break down the door and overthrow you completely.
Okay, all of this is building to the story's big climax. But we're not looking for a simple good guys win kind of ending. No, we're headed for something way more complicated, way more profound. A terrifying synthesis of light and dark. And this is the million-dollar question, right? How do you fix this? How do you take this hollowed-out, empty man, this ghost, and make him solid, real, and powerful again? Well, the answer is definitely not what you'd expect. The jester. He just reaches right into the well, pulls out this dripping, screaming, horrible darkness, and issues the most shocking command you can imagine. He tells the man to consume the very thing he tried to kill, to literally take it back inside himself.
And he's not speaking in riddles here. He means it. He's commanding the man to reintegrate every single part of himself he rejected. The bitterness, the rage, the ambition, that raw animal hunger. All the messy, powerful, ugly stuff he decided wasn't good enough.
Here's the logic behind this madness. True will, the strength of a lion, isn't just about having noble intentions. It has to be fueled by something primal. You need the hunger, the drive, the killer instinct of the beast that hunts in the dark. That's where real power comes from.
And the result of this synthesis, is a complete and total transformation. He's not transparent anymore. The story says his skin actually darkens. His eyes get this terrifying, soulful depth. And his will is no longer some flimsy little wish. It's a heavy, grounded, undeniable command. He's whole again.
Now, this transformation isn't just a cool ending to a story, it's basically a recipe.
a blueprint for a huge philosophical idea. This last part of the parable explains this process, the forging of what it calls the overman.
You can pretty much break the journey down into 4 steps. First, you have to acknowledge the dungeon. You have to admit that the dark parts of you are real and they exist. Second, you confront the monster within. Third, and this is so important, you don't kill it, you master it. And finally, using that mastery, you forge a whole will.
So this is the big idea of the overman. The goal isn't to be good in some simple, clean way. The goal is to be whole. It means you integrate every single part of yourself, from your highest, most noble dream, the peak, all the way down to your darkest, most primal instinct, the cellar.
And this idea lands a serious punch against untested morality. The parable is basically asking us, if your goodness has never been seriously tempted, if you've never looked your own capacity for evil right in the eye and chosen to walk a better path anyway, is that really virtue? Or is it just innocence? Just a lack of opportunity?
And see, only this fully integrated person is capable of what the jester calls amor fati, a love of one's fate. That means loving everything about your existence. And yes, that includes your potential for destruction, because you understand that you need that very same power if you want to create anything truly meaningful.
So finally, we get to see the result of this incredible transformation. The man walks away from the well. He's not a ghost anymore. He's a creator, and he's starting a whole new journey. He doesn't just fade away this time. The story says he walks away not as a ghost, but as a mountain of a human being. He's solid, he's grounded, he's immense. He has weight, a real presence, and a power you just can't deny. And this, right here, is the ultimate point. He faced the abyss inside himself, that darkness in the well. But instead of letting it swallow him up, he swallowed it. And by integrating that terrifying emptiness, he transformed it into the raw material he needed to become a creator. And so, the parable leaves us with one final, piercing question. It turns the mirror away from the man in the story, and it turns it right back on us. It forces us to ask ourselves, what have we cast away? What power, what hunger, what darkness is waiting at the bottom of our own well?